Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Matt from Team Divine Pro, otherwise known as Viewtiful Linker Joe if you know me from my other YouTube channel. Ergo with my Matt, I am Viewtiful Joe. Last time you saw me do a video, it was on a not so competitive Oracle Think Tank deck. This time I will be bringing you another Oracle Think Tank deck profile that's a little bit more competitive and a little bit more consistent, so I hope you guys enjoy. This is very much my go-to deck in terms of like what I choose in tournaments and whatnot, so let's get started. Obviously my starter is going to be God Hockey Chibiyoshi, so it's going to be the full moon of the goddess ride chain. It's going to be pretty much standard except for the grade 3s, you'll see that eventually, but I'm going to work my way up from grade 0 to grade 3. So let's go into the triggers. For Psychic Bird, which is essentially just a plus, a 1-for-1. Call it to rear guard, add it to soul, draw 1 card. So technically you have 8 triggers, 8 crits I should say, because this is just like this is technically like a draw trigger. For those, 4 ginger, and you have 4 Nike, so a total of 12 crit. But like I said, you probably only really have 8 in reality because of Psychic Bird, which gives you the draw. And lastly, you have 4 heal triggers, Los Megas. Now, you're going to see in the deck that I like to run the alternate arts of different cards. I'm much of an artist myself, so I appreciate the different artworks, which means I like to put the different arts in the deck so that it looks a little bit more pretty. So that's the trigger lineup, all 16, pretty standard. On to grade 1s, I run 14. Since it's the ride chain, you want to run 4 of the Crescent Moon to ensure that you get the ride. 4 perfect guards, just for the sake of safety. Everything in here is pretty easy to grab, especially with all the drawing and all the stacking. 4 Gemini for the 8k vanilla boost, and 2 Milk for the Vanguard 10k boost with the +4 cards in hand, +4. So, like I said, alternate art, I like it. This deck is very much supposed to be beat down, especially with 12 crit, with the way the ride chain works, the constant stacking at the bottom of the deck. You should be able to overpower your opponent fairly quickly. On to grade 2s, again, ride chain, so 4 Half Moon. When you ride it over Crescent Moon, you soul charge 2 if you have God Hawk in soul as well. I can't really say much about this deck. The deck is pretty self-explanatory. 4 Battle Maiden Tagatsuhime, if you have 6 in soul, gets plus 3,000 when it attacks, so it's basically like your Bedivere of the deck. And lastly, my favorite unit, Silent Tom. Silent Tom is OP. It's pretty stupid. It's a pretty stupid card. But with Link Joker and like Eradicators and all that other stuff, it's kind of like a hit or miss. So you want to be careful when you call this. You want to be careful just overall with Silent Tom. You need to be able to know when would be the right time to go for like the aggressive push or for the defensive like backup or whatever. Especially when the Eradicators and other Link Joker stuff are just going to lock it and retire it the turn after you call it. So honestly, you have to be careful. Lastly, for grade 3s, you have 4 of the Full Moon. This one's signed by the English dub Carol Ann Day herself. Counterblast 2, you draw 2 and add 1 card to soul. And then if you don't have all 3 of the rest of the ride chain in your soul, this minus 2,000, so it becomes 9k. You never want that to happen, and because of the way the deck works, that should never happen. So this should always be a constant 11k. And for the backup Vanguard, you have 4 Battle Sister Monaka. Oh, I forgot to mention that because there's only 14 grade 1s, that there's 11 grade 2s. So it's not like, it's a slight variation from the standard 16, 15, 10, 8. Basically, I'm only going to be using this for Limit Break to help with the stack and to help get cards for the chain in my hand. Basically, you Counterblast 2, you Counterblast 1, ditch her from your hand, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, search for 2, add them to your hand, and then put the rest at the bottom of your deck. So not only does it help stack cards at the bottom of your deck so you can trigger check, that way you can eventually double crit your opponent, but you also ensure that you can get the level 3 Full Moon or any of the other unit like boost units like Gemini or Full Moon, or even not Full Moon, Crescent Moon, or even Silent Tom and stuff like that to your hand. So this is actually really good. Plus it's 11,000. You're not going to use its second effect, which is Counterblast 2 Battle Sisters in its name, and it gets plus 5,000. So it's not all that good in that aspect. You're only really using it for the limit break. Plus, if you have this as Vanguard and you don't want to waste the extra turn to ride your Full Moon, you can just put this as rear guard. Since you have all 3 in your soul, this will just sit as a rear guard as 11,000. So no matter what, you're always going to hit for at most like 19,000 column, and if this is boosted by Milk, then you'll have a 21 column. So you'll still hit for pretty decent numbers. But that is like the general focus. These plus this, it'll just help with your stack, especially with the 12 crit. You want to constantly be able to know what you're going to get for your trigger checks and know what you're going to do, so that your opponent has to sort of be careful with how they guard, because you know what's going to happen when you hit the certain stack in your deck, but they don't know what you're going to hit. So they have to play a little bit more defensive, whereas you can play as aggressive as possible since you know exactly what you're going to trigger tech. So you know when to guard, when not to guard. But that is essentially the deck profile. Quick little side note, the deck is consistent. You just need to be able to be smart with the deck. Obviously there's a level of memorization involved, so you need to have a good intellect to play this deck. Anyone can memorize the stack if you know how to do it. You're going to be stacking at least 5, 10, 15, depending on how many you do. That's like 18 right there. So 5, 10, 15, yeah, that's like 18 right there, depending on how many triggers you got. And then all this stuff in the deck helps you thin out the deck. So you have Psychic Bird, you have Half Moon that lets you Soul Charge 2, you have this that lets you thin out the deck more. You have so many ways to get to the stack that it's not that hard to get to it. The deck is pretty simple, it's kind of vanilla, but it gets the job done. So I hope you guys enjoyed the deck. Hope you guys learned something from it. If you guys run it, maybe I gave you some ideas. But overall, pretty self-explanatory. So this is Matt, or Viewtiful Inker Joe. You can refer to me as either one. This is me signing off. Keep calm and henshin to go-go, guys.